show you a picture. Do you know Sarah?
I don't know.
So, would you like to... Do you know where Sarah is?
No.
Right. Okay. Have you ever personally met her?
No, not personally, no.
Have you had any...
This is a clip from the interview taken after Wayne Couzens' arrest shortly after murdering Sarah Everard. Please make sure you watch the whole video to see the full clip and a summary and some sort of analysis from me as well about the case. Also, if you like the video, please make sure to like, comment and subscribe. Now I'll start with how Couzens planned to carry out the crime. It was 3 days before Miss Everard's abduction that Couzens began to enact his heinous plot. The 48-year-old from Deal in Kent lived with his wife and 2 children, and he booked a white Vauxhall car from a hire firm in Dover using his personal details and bank card. He also had bought a roll of self-adhesive film advertised as carpet protector on Amazon. After working a 12-hour shift, the diplomatic protection officer, who carried out a firearm in his role, collected the hire car on the afternoon of 3rd March. The sentencing heard that his own car, a Seat, was in a bad condition. The prosecutor, Tom Little QC, explained there was no reason why Couzens would have hired a car other than to use that car to kidnap and rape a lone woman. And the judge in the hearing, Lord Justice Fulford, added that he had no doubt that Couzens rented the Vauxhall because it was credible as a police vehicle. On the CCTV footage from the car hire firm shown to the court, Couzens was wearing a cap and a face mask as he stood at the door talking to a member of staff. On the evening of the crime, Miss Everard popped into a Sainsbury's in Brixton Hill, South London. There, she bought a bottle of red wine before visiting a friend's house in Leithwaite Road in Clapham. Miss Everard then left her friend's house at around 9 p.m. to walk home, which was around a 2.5-mile walk. Unfortunately, it was a journey she never completed. It has been said that the route that Miss Everard took while walking home was well lit with a lot of properties around. It was said that Couzens stopped Miss Everard, and the pair, who were total complete strangers to each other, were seen engaged in conversation by a member of the public before witnesses saw her being handcuffed. Couzens may have told Miss Everard she was under arrest for allegedly breaching COVID rules at a time when the country was under a strict lockdown restriction. Former detective Mr. Harding said that he could have used COVID as a reason to get her into the back of the car, and he could have said that you're breaching COVID rules and just simply arrested her, which seems like a plausible thing for what actually happened. Sarah necessarily wouldn't have known every single law, and since she was pretty law-abiding, I doubt she would have known every single law relating to it, and she quietly just said, yeah, I'll get into the back of the car. The moment of the actual kidnapping was actually witnessed by a couple travelling past in a car who did not realise what they were actually seeing. The female passenger saw a man and a woman on the pavement and watched as the woman was handcuffed. The sentencing hearing was told. An image from a bus that passed by Mr. Couzens and Miss Everard showed that he was actually putting his arm out to show something. We believe now that this could have been a fake warrant card of some sort to actually make her believe that she's actually breaking the rules. Police also believe that the kidnapping took less than 5 minutes and she was handcuffed at 9:34 p.m, detained in Couzens' hire car by 9:37 p.m, and about a minute later they were already on their way to Kent, where Wayne Couzens had terrible plans for this lady. Police later gathered evidence from mobile phones and ANPR cameras and found that he had taken a route down towards Kent along the South Circular Road, then the A20 and then the M20. At some point following the abduction, Miss Everard was moved from the hire vehicle into Couzens' own car, the court was told. CCTV showed Couzens' hire car in Dover shortly after 11:30 p.m. An ANPR camera had identified the vehicle arriving in the town 2 minutes before that night, and that was when Miss Everard was last seen alive. The sentencing hearing was told that the hire car was parked close to Couzens' Seat, which had been left in a non-residential area of the port town earlier that evening. The port town being Dover. The court was told that Couzens transferred Miss Everard to his own car at around that point, but he must have threatened her to stop trying to escape, or probably to stop even making a noise so they wouldn't be recognised. He then proceeded to drive to a remote rural spot on the northwest of Dover, and he raped Miss Everard there, which the guy is a sicko for. The Seat was then picked up on ANPR recognition cameras at 2:30 a.m. the next day on a road in Dover, and by that point, Mr. Little QC told the hearing that Sarah Everard is most likely to have been murdered by this point. Phone data indicates that he actually travelled to the Ashford area between 2:30 a.m. and 3:15 a.m. and at 4:28 p.m. that day, his car was seen driving towards Hordes Wood near Ashford. Another camera picked him up driving near the area around 6:30 a.m. After calling into a Costa coffee shop in Dover at around 8:15 a.m, he returned the hire car and later travelled to a town called Sandwich, where he threw Miss Everard's phone into a stream. This was told to the Old Bailey during the sentencing hearing. Meanwhile, Miss Everard's boyfriend, Josh Loth, having been unable to contact Miss Everard, reported her missing on the evening of 4th March. The next day, Couzens told work that he was suffering from stress. That afternoon, he was captured on CCTV buying 2 green rubble bags at a B&Q in Dover. At 11 a.m. on the 5th of March, he then proceeded to buy petrol, and then at 12:45 p.m. the same day, a witness saw a large orange and yellow frame in Hordes Wood. On 6 March, he emailed his supervisor to say he no longer wanted to carry a firearm and was told he could be off work for 5 days. Couzens ordered a tarpaulin and a bungee cargo net on Amazon, which was shipped to him the next day. On the morning of the 7th, Wayne Cousin visited Hordes Wood with his wife and 2 children. Mr. Little said that Cousin allowed his children to play in relative close proximity to where Miss Everard's body had been dumped. I have no words for this guy at all, man. The officer then reported in sick on 8th March, the day he was due to return to work. The next day, police arrested Couzens at around 7:50 p.m, 39 minutes after he wiped his mobile phone data. At this point, police had turned on their body cam to interview Wayne Couzens in what was sort of an emergency interview due to the nature of the case and how Sarah Everard had been missing for multiple days. Please now watch the whole of the interview and just watch him lie through his teeth, because that's all he really could have done.
Would you like to, do you know where Sarah is?
No.
Right. Okay. Have you ever personally met her?
No, not personally, no.
Have you had any interactions with her at all?
Why would I have personal interactions with her?
Have a good think about it and tell us anything you can about whether another time.
Okay, well, I am in financial shit, and I've been lent on by, I don't know who they are. They're a group, a gang, whatever, and they told me, right, I need to go and pick up girls and give them to them. It then came through that they're going to harm my family, take them away, and they'll use them instead. At that point I had no option to try and find somebody. So I don't, there's a couple of names. I was told a place to take her. They are, it was between sort of Lemon, Maidstone area that I dropped her off. I still don't know. I don't know. They just, I just parked my car up, and then the van come up behind me, flashed me. They all jumped out, and then they took this girl. They said, you've done good, and I don't know whether my family's going to be alright still. But they threatened to take my family away from me. Opened my door, opened that door, pushed me out against the front of the car, took the girl, drove off. That's it. They said, we'll be in touch. So I'm here, I'm off work with stress because I'm here to protect my family. I want to be here 24/7 for my family. They come from my family. I've got nothing myself.
But How do they contact you? How did you contact them?
I tried to fuck over one of their call girls and rip her off. So she's told them, and they've got me. Yeah, they'll come outside. So they'll be outside here.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, right, you're going to be in Folkestone at this time, or you're going to be in Ashford at this time. And that's it. There's no links, no telephone numbers. I'm completely on my own, but at the same time being threatened. It had Romanian plates on the.
Now that you've watched that video, I'd like to move on to when the phone data actually led officers to the site of the murder at around 4:45 p.m. on the 10th of March, and Miss Everard's body was found some 100 metres outside the property boundary that him and his wife owned in Ashford, Kent. Her body was savagely put in a fly-tipped fridge and left abandoned in the woodlands before being set alight, the Old Bailey heard. The remains, dumped inside a pond inside 2 large green builder's bags, were identified as Miss Everard's body by only dental records because they couldn't use anything else due to the severity of the burns and stuff, which is just sick. Evidence from the site also indicates that she was not wearing her top, coat or leggings at the time her body was burned. Her phone was then shortly discovered in the River Stour in Sandwich, Kent. The post-mortem examination found that Miss Everard died from a compression of the neck. And after delivering his sentence verdict, the judge, Lord Justice Fulford, praised the police, telling those in court that it was the most impressive police investigation that I've encountered in the last 30 years. Now, the fact that they simply found what actually happened from using ANPRs and phone records just goes to show that the police did act well on this occasion. While Couzens was in custody, he actually admitted to a psychiatrist that he strangled Miss Everard with a belt, and given all the circumstances, this would be consistent with his police belt, which is just unthinkable, as he's supposed to be someone who protects people and lone women and stuff like that, and this is what this guy's doing. And past the interview the clip that I showed, he hasn't offered any type of explanation, and a lot of questions are actually just unanswered, and yeah, just goes to show how sick people can be, especially people in power and stuff like that as well, people you wouldn't really usually expect it from. Bizarrely, it's been heard that Couzens' wife Eleanor told the Mail Online that she was as puzzled as everyone else, and that he wasn't actually acting any different from when the act took place. I think this just goes to show the cold nature of this man and how crazy he actually was. It's since been heard that he actually had an indecent exposure incident as far back as 2015, and to be honest, I think if a police officer is committing indecent exposure, can they really remain a police officer? I think this case really shows that no, and what actually happens is these police officers usually go on to do something even more crazy and things that we can't actually even fathom, if anything. Wayne Couzens was actually sentenced to a whole life order. This is something that's quite rare, and his barrister said that he did not actually deserve a whole life order, but the judge was quickly to dismiss that. I'm completely on the side of the judge here, and I believe that a whole life order was what was needed for an animal like this. Now, my thoughts on the story is that this guy is a complete sicko, and I'm not trying to paint all police officers with this brush, but police officers are people who should be taking care of the public, and instead this guy used his power to do something crazy, and surely he can't just be the only one that's like that in the force, because there's a lot of police officers out there, and just by the law of averages, it goes to show that he can't be the only one. I think the Met Police also showed a lot of failings into not actually sacking this man earlier in 2015 when he was shown with his indecent exposure allegations. And another thing that hits me as well is the actual interview clip and all the excuses he's given and stuff like that. This guy was obviously just a complete psycho, and the fact that his wife said that nothing seemed different just goes to show that this guy is just not alright in the head at all. at all. And yeah, at this point I'd just like to offer my condolences to Sarah Everard's family. I think they've had a lot of support during this, a lot of love from people, as such a massive case. But it's important that we don't forget things like this, and people are held to account for crazy crimes like this. And yeah, I just hope that something like this never actually happens again.